both your response to that and their contribution to expanding what we think was of general interest to you. The beloved and well-known royal Princess Anne has finally revealed something that has left not only the royals but the entire nation in a state of stunned silence. This comes after years of keeping the thoughts and secrets of the late Queen Elizabeth to herself in an effort to maintain the monarchy's peace. The Queen herself wrote the most potent secret in Buckingham Palace, which was concealed in a silent envelope rather than a vault. An unexpected deathbed wish that was never intended for public consumption, named Catherine, Princess of Wales. What is the secret to the monarchy included in this last wish? And why was Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, mentioned? Come explore this story with us, Princess Anne's Choice. It all began when Princess Anne spent the final hours of her life by the side of her mother, Queen Elizabeth. Princess Anne was not just the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, but also the pillar of support for the monarchy. She was born in Clarence House on August 15, 1950, as Princess Anne of Edinburgh, third in line to the throne, following her mother's coronation as queen in 1952 following the death of her uncle, King George VI. Raised in the midst of royal responsibilities, Anne showed the self-control and poise that would characterize her adult life. From an early age, she demonstrated extraordinary dedication, particularly to horses, when attending Bendon School in Kent. As a teenage, Princess Anne shares her mother's passion for horses. Her passion was so great that, to her mother's joy, Anne became the first royal to compete at the Olympics in Montreal in 1971, riding the Queen's horse, Goodwill, and winning gold at the European three-day event in Burley 4 years later. In 1987, Anne was given the coveted title of Princess Royal, which is only given to a sovereign's eldest daughter. When the pleased Queen gave her the Burghley Trophy, mutual respect and similar interests served as the foundation of Anne and Elizabeth's relationship. Both were tough, nature-loving ladies who valued practicality over show. Anne recently told ITV that her mother set an example for her and taught her that listening and learning were more important aspects of leadership than giving speeches. She gave the Queen credit for teaching her the fundamental principles of constancy, modesty, and a strong sense of responsibility. Principles that would serve Anne well during her decades of public service and establish her as one of the most adored royals. Princess Anne's practical yet understated demeanor has always made her appealing. She was never known for promoting herself to the public or for pursuing power. Anne carried out her duties in silence, defending the monarchy without taking any needless attention for herself. Because of her devotion to and affection for the late Princess Diana, the only female child of the Queen, was well known and adored throughout the nation. Elizabeth II entrusted her last and most contentious secret to this woman. More than any other queen, Anne knew what sacrifice and dedication really meant. She understood that the crown is carried on the backs of people who are prepared to defend its meaning rather than merely being worn. Anne took on the responsibility of delivering the Queen's letter, which would defy years of custom and possibly alter the course of the monarchy, because of the depth of character she had developed via her mother's example. Princess Anne was skeptical, but she had no intention of betraying her mother's trust. Anne had been trusted to convey the Queen's decision at a time when the monarchy most needed it. After observing the public's disapproving views of the new monarch and witnessing her brother Charles suffer under the strain of expectations, Anne sensed the public's restlessness and realized they were craving more. She realized then that the moment had arrived. Queen Elizabeth's last wish could no longer be concealed, and the monarchy could not afford to remain silent. Princess Anne made her choice with the determination with which she was renowned. She would arrange a secret meeting with King Charles and Prince William, the two men who would be most impacted by the revelations she was about to make. What she would reveal next would alter the monarchy's course forever. A misty evening and the startling letter's content. It was just another London night. The air was thick with fog and the clouds were heavy. There was a blanket-like silence over the city. But something was about to change forever within Buckingham Palace. In her private quarters, Princess Anne stood by herself, clutching a letter that she had read 100 times but still found hard to believe. Only a few weeks prior to her passing, her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, had presented it to her. A stoic woman, the Queen had always. Her choices were renowned to be well-considered, methodical, and fervently monarchy protective. Therefore, she wasn't casual when she requested Anne to protect her last wish. Although Anne had always known that she would eventually need to take action, The question had always been when. After the Queen's death, the monarchy had continued as usual, but beneath the glossy exterior, cracks were starting to appear. The public's trust in the monarchy was declining as Charles became king and William gained more prominence. The public's distaste for Charles was well known due to his tumultuous divorce from the late Princess Diana and his lover Camilla. Given the negative public perception, something had to change. Ever the devoted daughter and pillar of the family, Anne sensed the time had come when the public began to criticize Charles. Time for the Queen's parting remarks. The majority believed they knew what will happen to the British monarchy in the future. Prince William after King Charles. As anticipated, everything was traditional and in order. That was the plan. But something happened deep within Buckingham Palace late one foggy London night that would alter everything, and hardly anybody outside the palace walls knew about it. Something heavy that Princess Anne had been holding was too much for her to contain. She had never requested the secret, but she was unable to ignore it. A well-documented secret from her mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Prior to her death, courtiers were not informed of the Queen's last wish, nor was it made public. Instead, she had told her only daughter, telling her to tell her when the time was appropriate. Oddly, Charles was not mentioned in the Queen's message. William, the second heir, was not even mentioned. Rather, it chose a different, surprising person who was thought to be able to preserve the crown's future. That individual turned out to be Catherine, the Princess of Wales, which was shocking. Inside, behind heavy walls and endless corridors, as the darkness deepened and fog encircled the iron gates, Anne made up her mind that now was the ideal moment to speak. She demanded a meeting with Prince William and King Charles. Only the three of them were present. There were no advisors or employees. They met in an old, somber-looking room, with images of former kings and queens on the walls, and thick drapes hanging over dark wood. Anne chose to be more straightforward rather than give a long speech. In front of her bewildered brother, she merely unfolded a letter that was soiled from being held repeatedly and set it on the table. Charles was the first to pick it up, his hands trembling a little. William read each word twice, scowling as he leaned forward. There was fear in the silence. The clock on the mantel, which was ticking loudly in the quiet, was mentioned. The city slept in ignorance outside, but the late Queen's letter was obvious. She viewed Catherine as the monarchy's future, not only as a potential queen consort. The queen who passed away felt that the crown's existence depended not on a king but on a woman who was already adored by the populace, and who had gained their trust rather than simply inheriting it. How did Charlie respond to this startling discovery? To find out, stay with us. Charles initially resisted the shocking revelation made by his older sister, as he objected to the letter, stating that it was unconventional and not how things were done. His voice pierced the quiet. In some way, his face appeared aged and worn out. William remained silent. Too astonished to say anything, he simply stared at the letter while clenching and unclenching his hands in his lap. Since she wasn't there to fight, Anne didn't argue. Instead, the Queen had put her there because she trusted her to tell them. However, Anne kept quiet about the fact that she secretly shared her late mother's beliefs. The other royal princesses were not like Catherine Middleton. She didn't simply blend in with the previous system. People began to believe in it again because of her charisma. At last, William said, although in a hushed voice, "Why didn't she tell us earlier?" Perhaps the dead queen didn't believe they were prepared to hear it, Anne said with a faint, melancholy grin. Each of them knew that whatever they chose to do next would alter their entire situation, so they sat there for a long time, breathing the same thick air. In addition to altering the monarchy's history, the letter posed a danger to its fundamental foundation. Catherine, meantime, was sitting in a separate section of the palace that evening, and was not aware of the startling subject matter of the discussion between her husband and his family. Louis, Charlotte, and George had just been put to bed by her. With a cup of tea cooling next to her, she sat by a window and gazed out at the fog. Catherine was agitated, but she wasn't sure why. She was unaware that the future of the monarchy and her own life were being rewritten above. Power had never been her goal. She had only ever attempted to complete the task correctly and quietly. She listened when it was her turn to listen, laughed when she had to, and passionately guarded her kids. When the Queen saw that, she thought that was just what the future needed. The letter, therefore, lay between them like a living creature back in the meeting room. At last, Anne straightened her skirt and got to her feet. She didn't wait for William or Charles to concur. She was aware of her mother's wishes. The risk taken, the truth revealed. "Whatever we decide," she muttered, "the world is evolving.
Either we adapt to it, or we fall behind. While no one responded, a decision began to germinate in the quiet, like the first crack of dawn light. Quietly and firmly, the world believed that the monarchy was already changing, not with pomp or a big statement, but with just one night, a woman who was unaware that she would soon be called into history, and a whispered truth. You will be shocked by what transpired next. The Queen had noticed the difference. Prince William had been raised under the harsh demands of monarchy and Catherine Middleton. He had been prepared for the throne since he was able to walk. However, that letter shook him more than he had anticipated. His entire life had revolved on duty, legacy and service. Now, however, he was being asked to think it all over again. It was by his own grandmother, not the media. He was portrayed on paper as the young, relatable royal of the future. Every action he took, however, was closely observed. The public exaggerated every error. Even his marriage to Catherine, who was a bright spot in the family, had its drawbacks. William found it more difficult to shine on his own the more others admired her serene confidence and sincere smile. In addition, Harry was making charges from the other side of the Atlantic and causing more serious injuries that hadn't even started to heal. William never opposed his father, although he was aware that the monarchy was in a precarious position. Every day he felt it, particularly now that something startling had emerged from the Queen's death. The country united in mourning shortly after the Queen's passing. However, that togetherness was short-lived. The royal family started to lose the trust of the populace. Polls soon revealed that a growing number of young people were doubting the monarchy's continued relevance. Unexpected calls to sever connections with the crown were more vocal in regions such as the Caribbean and Australia. The family sensed it. The old allegiance that the crown had was eroding as the tide turned. Tradition was no longer enough to sustain them. Deep down, they had to prove themselves again and again. They were aware that neither a PR campaign nor a press conference could save them. The populace required they required an actual person, someone they could identify with and trust. Catherine, perhaps, long before the public became aware of the cracks, Queen Elizabeth had somehow anticipated it. She had softly and unobtrusively made her decision. William, however, was unable to comprehend why. His wife was the one who was selected, in addition to his mother rejecting him. However, it wasn't all that shocking. The crown has never been requested by Catherine. She had never courted public sympathy or sought attention. She just consistently arrived for her regal responsibilities with poise and quiet fortitude. Catherine carried her responsibilities in a different way than William, who bore the burden of centuries. He didn't have what she did, the capacity to relate to, console and uplift the average person. Perhaps because Catherine didn't come from a royal family, she had the experience she needed to be grounded. It was seen by the Queen. William was now being made to witness it as well. The royal world remained unchanged to the outer world, packed with fancy dinners, charity events, and well-shot pictures. On the inside, however, the tranquility was beginning to wane. No one anticipated that the monarchy's flawless image would be undermined. It was gradually losing the public's favor. Will the pressure cause it to crush, or will the most unlikely individual rebuild it? A lady who was more capable of wearing the crown than any of the males who were vying for it. The people's support for Catherine was shocking to Charles and William, who both opposed her being told the truth, even if the information was never made public. People kept repeating what the late Queen had spoken, as if on cue. Many in the media were demanding that the gentle princess be given the throne. Many reporters were interested in learning more about the quiet woman who made everyone around her feel at ease with her light, so they took their time exploring her ADT. Not only was what they discovered unexpected, but it was also very touching. A glimpse into the life of Catherine, born in Reading, Berkshire, England, on January 9, 1982. Catherine, commonly known as Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales, is the wife and princess consort of William, Prince of Wales, and the heir presumptive to the British throne. The late Princess Diana, Catherine's mother-in-law, had previously held the title of Princess of Wales until 20. Like Diana, Catherine is seen as friendly and approachable. She is usually one of the most well-liked members of the royal family. It should come as no surprise that she is nearly as well-liked and accepted as her mother-in-law. On the contrary, Catherine was not born royal. Being the oldest of Michael and Carol Middleton's 3 children, she was raised in a typical household. James, Pippa, and Philippa are her siblings. Her parents started a mail-order company in 1987, selling party materials for kids. After meeting while working as flight attendants for British Airways, they were able to send Catherine to a prep school and subsequently to the esteemed Marlborough College in Wiltshire, England, thanks to the success of that endeavor and a family inheritance. Catherine, then known as Kate Middleton, was a well-respected, level-headed student at Marlborough, who excelled in both sports. In addition to academics, she captained the school's field hockey team. Following a year off, Middleton enrolled at Scotland's University of St Andrews. She worked part-time as a waiter there, and studied art history. She worked as an accessories buyer for a clothing retailer for a short time after graduating from St Andrews. She then took on a variety of responsibilities at her parents' business, while doing a lot of charitable work. Although Catherine was ready to focus on her job, life had other plans for her. Prince William was the second in line to the British throne, after his father Charles, and Kate Middleton met him while she was a first-year art history student at St Andrews. Catherine claims that for almost a year, the two were very close friends. When they and a few others moved in together in 2002, their connection took a romantic turn. They kept a quiet profile, and it wasn't until they were spotted together on vacation in Switzerland, in 2004, that their relationship became public knowledge. Middleton later stated, "At the time I wasn't very happy about it, but actually it made me a stronger person." The pair split up 3 years later, but they got back together after only a few months, following years of intense British media speculation on the couple's marriage plans. Middleton was the subject of tabloid scrutiny and given the nickname Weighty Katie. The couple's engagement was declared in November 20. Kate Middleton adopted the more official name, Catherine, in order to become a member of the royal family. The royal wedding was held at London's Westminster Abbey on April 20. The title of Duchess of Cambridge was bestowed upon her. Prince George Alexander Louis of Cambridge, the couple's first son, was born on July 22. According to most accounts, Catherine adapted to royal life with ease and gained public popularity quite fast. She participates in many charitable endeavors, particularly those that benefit children. She founded the Royal Foundation's Center for Early Childhood. Additionally, Catherine has backed initiatives pertaining to mental health concerns. Following her assimilation into the royal family, Catherine emerged as a force for good, not merely a graceful person. She didn't just show up at functions for the sake of custom. She truly threw herself into causes that were very important to her. She demonstrated that she had struck the ideal balance between her personal compassion and her royal responsibility through her charitable endeavors, which came to define her identity. In 2018, one of her most heartfelt gestures occurred in silence. Catherine gave 7 inches of her hair to the Little Princess Trust, a non-profit that makes wigs for kids receiving cancer treatment, without trying to attract any notice. She had made the decision in private, motivated by her hairstylist, Joey Wheeler. Her deed served as a reminder that the most sincere deeds of compassion are frequently those carried out in private. It was a small but impactful gesture that echoed her years of silent kindness. Many believed that all of it was staged, but it wasn't, because Catherine was already actively involved in improving people's lives and doing charitable work even before she married Prince William. Catherine Middleton earned a $100,000 for the Oxford Children's Hospital and mental health projects in 2017 by hosting a charity roller disco and organizing a photographic exhibition to support UNICEF. She partnered with William and his brother Prince Harry in 2017 to start the Heads Together campaign, which aims to reduce the stigma attached to mental health issues and increase public awareness of them. In addition, Catherine is a well-known amateur photographer who regularly shares family photos on the internet. She gained public love and respect as a result of all of this, as well as her endearing and sincere demeanor, which now posed a threat to permanently alter her life. The royal family was split when rumors of the Queen's letter spread outside the palace walls. The letter was viewed as a lifeline for the continuation of the monarchy by some, while others felt it was a breach of tradition. Supporters cited Catherine's record, her work in mental health, her widespread appeal, and her easy genuineness in her demeanor, while critics said she was unprepared and more mother than monarch. Public discussion erupted, Was it appropriate to request William's resignation? Would the family become more or less united as a result of this? Catherine, however, kept quiet, oblivious to the raging tempest. She kept going to children's hospitals, consoling strangers, and disciplinedly and compassionately rearing her kids. William watched as his beloved became the focus of an argument he never anticipated. It went further than he thought it would. He had always known Catherine was exceptional, but now that the world was witnessing what the Queen had witnessed all along, he began to doubt his own position. However, he experienced a completely different emotion when he turned to face Catherine: wonder, thankfulness, even tranquility. His legacy had not been taken by her, it had been redefined by her. Perhaps this has nothing to do with replacement. Perhaps it was about uniting to create something more powerful. Perhaps he could still hold the crown without it resting on his head. How do you feel about Princess Anne's choice to make the letter public? Will Charles and William allow Catherine to take control in your opinion? Leave a comment below with your opinions. For more, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Additionally, click the next video that appears on your screen. You'll like